Hi, everybody. So happy to have you here. My name is Kristen Belden, and I'm the founder of Belden Strategies. And if you're here, I'm guessing that you've reached that point where you recognize that being busy is definitely not the same thing as being clear. And in fact, the two things can be in competition with each other from time to time. You're successful, you've built or are leading something important, you're great at what you do, likely really, really great at what you do. But if I were to ask you right now to pause and answer what actually needs to shift in your business or your leadership or even in your life in order to evolve into the next season or the next chapter of what you're building towards, would you have an immediate answer or would you need to think about it a bit and sift through all the noise to try and find the signal that you're looking for? Here's what I know and have learned from working with and interviewing dozens of women. Clarity is not something that you stumble upon when you finally have enough time. It's not when you finally have enough money, and it's not when you give yourself permission. Clarity is something that you create intentionally, and it's in paying attention to the patterns in your own path and your own story that you're able to create it with an authenticity and a trueness for you. And that's what we're going to be doing today. I am going to pull up my slides for you, so give me just a moment. So, this is what I like to call the clarity reset. And it's taking a moment to reset, make sure that we're leading with intention and not reaction. So, many of us are leading from reaction mode without even realizing it. Someone sends an email, we respond immediately. An opportunity comes up and we say yes before we've thought it through. A crisis emerges and we drop everything to handle it. And none of that is wrong. We're great at reactive leadership because we've had to be. It's usually how we've gotten to where we are. But there is a cost when you're constantly reacting. You can lose touch with what you're actually building toward. Every can feel heavy because you're making it in isolation, and you can easily lose track of that bigger picture. Pivots can feel risky because you're not sure if it's the right move or just the next move. And every moment of stillness can feel impossible to find because you've trained yourself. Well, you trained yourself, and society has likely trained you to believe that moving fast means moving forward. I learned this the hard way. After years as a COO and chief of staff building strategic infrastructure for other people's visions, I had the rug pulled out from under me. I had what I thought was my dream job, working for a dream company, dream community, dream everything, when everything imploded and literally vanished overnight when our two co-founders were indicted on millions of dollars of investor fraud. To say that I went into shock and then a spiral of deep discomfort as I navigated questions around my identity and what life looked like with no professional compass is the understatement of the year. But in that forced pause, something really incredible actually started to emerge. I realized that I had been operating on autopilot for many years at that point, and I was reacting to what came my way instead of creating from what I actually wanted. And there's nothing wrong with saying yes to opportunity and taking things as they come. I'm very grateful for those opportunities. But at some point in my life, I realized if I want to build the next chapter, I need to get more intentional and start to answer what I actually wanted for myself. That's when I started doing what I'm about to share with you. In fact, I've done a lot of these practices here and there over the years, but it's really in this last evolution that I've brought it all together. And it's in doing these exercises intentionally and with a certain cadence that I got the clarity I really needed to build the business that I now love. So, what shifts when you lead from clarity? I think we all know that leading from clarity does not mean you have all the answers. But it does mean that you know the questions that you're asking. It means that when something comes across your desk or into your inbox, whether it's an opportunity or a request or potential partnership, you have the framework for evaluating it that goes beyond, can I do this, to does this actually belong here? And will it help serve me in the next season that I'm moving into? It means you can move quickly when needed, but you're moving in a direction that you've chosen, not just accepted. Today, I'm going to walk you through a condensed version of what I call the clarity hour. And it's a reset that I do quarterly and that I guide many of my clients through when they're also at an inflection point. So we'll do three things together. First, we'll do a rapid reflection of what's brought you here because it's really hard to see where you're going until you can acknowledge where you've been. Second, I'll walk you through my more and less method, which is a simple but for me has been a very powerful framework for identifying what needs to shift. And third, we'll help you see one clear pattern or theme that's trying to emerge so you can lead from intention going forward. So let's dig in. Before we can talk about what comes next, we need to acknowledge what's already happened. And I want to stop here and pause and share Mel Robbins, for those that consume her content, know that she's really, really dedicated and speaks a lot about this. And I've learned a lot from listening to her over the years that in that reflection, we're able to pull out a lot of the patterns that help us see where we're moving or where we've already been. So I hold that day of reflection for myself once a quarter where I sit quietly with what has brought me here. And while we don't have time for the full version today, I do want to give you the structure so that you can do it on your own. So here's what I do. I open my calendar and I look through every single day of the past quarter. Um, I I go through and I don't just pick out the big milestones, but everything. So it's the client meetings and the podcast recordings and the school pickup times and the board meetings and the morning coffees and even the quiet afternoons that I've chosen to read instead of answering emails. If I can remember those moments, I track them. So as I go through, I write down, as I'm sharing here, everything I would consider a win, and that's big or small. Everything that moved the needle, even if it was slightly. Maybe something new I tried, a networking event I went to, the life logistics and the fun stuff too, kids' sports, events, activities I've engaged in. And I will say that the first time I really sat down to do this, I was honestly shocked at how much had happened in just a few short months. And it's so easy because we are always pushing and we're always striving. But in that reflection, you can see and celebrate, oh my gosh, so much has already been done. And I have this big full life. And it kind of helps me just reset the way I want to be moving forward. And the key is that you don't need to do anything with the data right away, but you do want to sit with it a bit because this is when the whispers will start to rise up. You might notice, oh my gosh, I spent a lot of time shuttling kids back and forth, and that is not a bad thing. But it can be a level setter when you realize that our time is finite. I'm terrible at that. I feel like I have all the time in the world, and then I can never figure out why I can't get everything done that I want to get done. It could be that you're on three different boards or committees, but only one of them actually aligns with your values or still lights you up. Or you said yes to three speaking engagements or coffee dates, but you truly only enjoyed one of them. These are the whispers that aren't judgments, but they are the data that's showing you where you're spending your energy and where that spending is either intentional or habitual, because we want to get into a habit of starting to pull out, okay, am I still doing these things because I enjoy them? They feed me, they are stretching me, they are aligned with where I'm headed, or am I doing them because it's just what I'm used to, it's what's comfortable, and I haven't asked myself the critical question of whether or not it still fits. So I'm going to pause here and give you the space to do a mini version of this right now. So if you have your calendar accessible, open it. And let's just look at the last 30 days to start with. Take 90 seconds now and just scan through. Notice what's there. Don't judge, don't change, just see it. I would encourage you to write things down as they pop up. It can be easier to see everything kind of all at once if you do it that way. So I'll pause now and give you those few moments to reflect. Okay, I can tell you that 90 seconds sitting in silence by yourself while recording feels extremely long. So, hopefully, it did not feel as long for you. Um, as you look back on what you started to pull out, I'm curious if anything surprised you. Was there more of something than you expected, less of something you thought would be there? Any patterns in how you spent your time that you didn't realize were patterns? I want you to hold on to that because we will use it. So here's where we get a little bit more tactical. When I need that clarity on what I actually want, and this really started probably 5 years ago or so, apologies for the siren outside. Um, as I was moving into a new year, I recognized that the traditional kind of goal setting and setting of resolutions wasn't really serving me any longer. It felt like a lot of pressure, and it felt like I was choosing things just to choose them. And so I now start with something much simpler, and that's a more less list. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's very, very simple. It's just more of what you crave and less of what's draining you. No perfectionism, no rigid timelines, no pressure to have it all figured out by Q2. It's really just an honest guide that you can return to if you find yourself losing your way a little bit, if you find yourself a bit untethered. I know for me, when life happens, the kids get sick, or I get sick, or something unexpected. My husband was in an accident last year in the fall, broke two ribs, and our whole fall quarter was like a total mess. And so after a while, I realized I had to kind of re-anchor myself, and I came back to this list. So I like to think of it as an intentional setting of the table for the season that I'm in. You're not committing to a 5 year plan. You're really just giving yourself permission to move toward what matters, one conscious choice at a time. So for me, again, why this works is those traditional goals really force you to commit to an outcome before you're super clear on what you actually want. They can be rigid and create pressure, and when life shifts, you can feel like you failed. Maybe that's just me. So that's why this more or less method is different. It creates that compass, not the final destination, and it gives you that directional clarity without locking you into a very specific path. So we'll move through the five themes that I use. And for each one, you'll answer two questions. Very simple. What do I want more of? What do I want less of? The themes that I work through are in my work, in my relationships, in my daily life, and how I show up, and in general. And you'll have time after this session to go deep on all of them. But right now, I'll do a quick walkthrough of the first two as examples, and then I'll guide you through completing the rest. So let's start with work. Not just what you do for money, but the work that matters to you. As a friend of mine says, that's the work worth doing. Volunteer work, stuff you do in your community, anything else that kind of feeds you, but that creates a level of productivity needed from you. So, what do you want more of in your work? When I sat down at the end of last year, reflecting on and moving into 2026, I thought about I want more strategic thinking time, not just execution. I want more conversations with women who are building lives that they're proud of. I want more creative expression. I want writing and building and ideas. And I want more revenue from assets that I've already created, not just trading time for money. And what about less? So for me, in my work, I want less second guessing myself. I want less comparison to other people's timeline. Constantly guilty of that. Even if I'm so happy for folks, I'm like, oh, but why is it taking me so long to get to where I want to go? And less guilt about what I'm not doing. So notice that these are not goals. They're not launch a 10K course by March or get 5,000 email subscribers. Those are all fantastic goals, but that's not what we're doing here. These are qualities, directions, intentions, and they're meant to give a filter for the decisions that you make in your business or in the work that you lead. So for me now, if someone comes to me asking me to collaborate on something, I won't just ask, is this a good opportunity? I'll ask, does this give me more strategic thinking time, or is this adding to the execution load that I'm trying to reduce? So that's where I see the power of this list and getting specific is you can then ask yourself questions that will help guide you in how you make decisions. So let's move into relationships. This includes professional relationships, personal ones, community connections, all of it. So for me, in my relationship bucket, I'm looking for more depth over breadth. I'm seeking richer connections with people who are willing to, as I say, go there. I'm looking for more people to challenge my thinking, not just affirm it. And I'm looking for showing up fully instead of half distracted. I have decided really that as I move into this year, if I've chosen to be in a relationship or if I've chosen to be in a community or on a committee, I I have to do it because I want to be there and I have to do it and show up and be present and not be distracted by the million other things that I know I need to get done. So in my less bucket for relationships, I decided that I want less networking that feels transactional. I want less performing, that's on me, or unhealthy people pleasing. And I want less energy spent managing other people's expectations of me. So again, these are not action items, but they will shift, hopefully, how I engage. So let's say I'm invited to a networking event. I now won't think just should I go? I'll think, will this create depth or just add more breadth? If a relationship feels one-sided or we can't push through to that next kind of like layer of deepness together, I can notice it now. And I then get to decide if I'm going to invest differently or even eventually create distance. So this list is meant to give me permission to lead my relationships instead of just reacting to them. Okay, now the fun part, your turn. We're going to move through the last three themes together, and I'll give you the prompts and you'll have a bit of time to reflect. And again, I would encourage you to write these down because for me, it always really helps to see these things on paper and actually pull them together. So let's start with your daily life. What do you want more of? Think about how you spend an average Tuesday, your morning routine, your evening wind down. If you have an evening wind down, that's not something I'm great at yet. The pockets of time between the big commitments that you have. What are you looking for more of in those spaces? Is it more movement? Is it more cooking? Is it more takeout because you don't like to cook? Is it more reading? Is it more unscheduled space? Whatever it is, allow it to just rise up. Try not to judge what's coming up for yourself, and you can always refine as you go. But for this moment, take the 30 seconds to just write out everything that comes up top of mind. Okay, now we are going to flip it. What are the things that you want a little less of in your daily life? Is it rushing from one thing to the next, feeling guilt for taking time for yourself? Um, could be the mental load of remembering everyone else's schedules, whatever the thing is, again, that comes up for you. Start to write it out. I'll give you another 30 seconds here to let whatever comes to mind come out on paper. Okay, and I'm sorry we're rushing through this, but I want to get you as much information as I can in these short 30 minutes. Again, I'll encourage you all to come back to this when you have more time, but this will at least give you a sense of kind of where we're going with this. But the next theme is in how I show up. And so this is about your presence, your energy, the version of yourself that you bring into the rooms that you enter. So, what do you want more of in how you show up in the world? Is it saying I don't know without shame, vulnerability when it serves the moment, maybe letting people see you when you're still figuring it out? This is a large one, so take a moment to get quiet with yourself and think about What do you want more of and how you show up in the world? And we'll start the 30 seconds now. Okay, I'm sure you can see where we're going with this by now, but let's flip it again. What do you want less of in how you show up? Is it apologizing for taking up space, shifting yourself or molding yourself to make other people comfortable? I was guilty of that for many years. Second guessing things that you've already decided. Write out again anything that comes up for you right now, and I'll give you a moment to reflect. All right. Our last theme is in general, and this is the catch-all. It's for the things that don't fit neatly into the other categories, but matter just as much. So, things that maybe aren't necessarily related to one of the categories that we've already spoken about. What do you want more of there in general, and what do you want less of? And I will pause again and give you a moment to reflect. All right, let's bring it back again. You, congratulations, have just created the foundation of the beginning of your more or less list. And now we're going to talk through what to do with it. So, this is in finding patterns. You're going to look at everything that you just identified and go back through each theme that we worked through together. Circle 1 to 2 phrases per theme that would really create the biggest shift if you actually moved in that direction. Not the ones that sound good, not the ones that you think you should want, but the ones that, if you really leaned into them, would fundamentally change how you experience your days. For me, when I did this, or again earlier this year, what surfaced was that I wanted more creation. I wanted more creative projects, art, cooking, building, collaboration. I wanted less overcommitting, something that I continue to work on over the years. I want a more palms up approach in my business. And I want less unhealthy people pleasing in how I show up. And as I looked at those 4 things together, a pattern started to emerge. And I recognized that I was spending a lot of my energy trying to control outcomes and manage how people perceived me, that I wasn't leaving enough space for what actually wanted to come through. So every time I overcommitted, I was saying yes, sometimes from obligation instead of abundance. Every time I was in unhealthy people pleasing mode, I was performing instead of being my authentic self and being present. Every time I closed my hands into little fists instead of opening my palms, I was blocking what was trying to actually reach me. So the theme about needing to give myself permission to receive and to create from overflow, to trust that the right opportunities would find me when I stopped chasing and to show up as myself instead of who I thought people needed me to be, really got me thinking about how I want to approach my decision making and my strategy for my business and how I show up over the next quarter. And it will likely serve me longer than that. I say every quarter because I do like to come back to it and just notice if things have shifted or if other things have emerged for me. But at least for the next 3 months, I now have a guide for myself. So, what about you? Let's look at the words you circled and let's start to see if there's a thread running through them. It could be around performing and building what's true. It could be about releasing things that no longer serve you, creating space. There's no right answer, but it is your answer. And it's usually simpler than you think. We all have this deep inner knowing, this deep intuition that's there all the time, always guiding us. But I think life can get so noisy sometimes that, and we're constantly bombarded with so much information that it can be hard to hear it. So this will likely bring things up for you that you're like, well, yeah, of course, I knew this. But I feel like it's still a really important way of showing yourself what matters most. So let's give ourselves a few moments of silence again here for you to reflect and start to notice that pattern. Okay. What's trying to emerge? If you had to name the shift in one sentence, what would it be? And hold on to that because, again, we're going to move into how you use this going forward. And that's with this two-question filter. Every time you're making a decision, whether it's saying yes to a project, hiring someone new, signing up for a program, even in how you structure your week or just your day, you come back to this list and ask yourself two questions. Does this give me more of what I want? And does this reduce what I'm trying to release? And if it doesn't pass both tests, then you have your answer. So I want to also make it clear this is not about being rigid. Sometimes you'll say yes to things that don't fully align because they're necessary right now or because they're strategic. But now you're making that choice consciously. You're not just reacting, you're leading. And so really what you're wanting to do is give yourself that awareness so that you, even if you are making decisions that don't fully align, you know you're doing it intentionally. And as I've learned over the years, working across many different sectors and working with so many different leaders, the most sustainable businesses are not led by people who don't make mistakes. They're built by people who know what they're building toward and then can adjust quickly when something doesn't fit. So, my hope is that this list gives you that clarity and the permission to say no without guilt and yes without second guessing. And here's what I believe to be true at the core of all of this. Your story is not a liability, it is the strategy. A lot of a lot of business training focuses on what to do next, but I've found that the women who lead with the most impact are the ones that have done the work of integrating their internal evolution with their external growth. They're not just leading and building businesses, they're creating careers that fully align with the lives that they actually want before any forced pause makes them do it. So after this session, what I really want you to do is to download the template. It should be in the freebie area. It takes, take 15 minutes, 30 minutes, however long you want to take. Identify the pattern, write it down somewhere where you'll actually see it regularly, and start using it as your filter. Every decision, every opportunity, every pivot, run it through those two questions. And that's how you move from reacting to leading. That's how you create clarity instead of waiting for it. And that's how you build something that's not just successful, but sustainable. And I'll very quickly share if you want to keep this going, and for whatever reason and for in whatever way, I just truly appreciate you spending these 30 minutes with me. This is the work that I do. If you want to go deeper and you want help implementing the shifts you've identified, I work with women leaders through strategy sessions, like executive advisory, other frameworks that I've created. You can see all my information here. Find me, hit me up. I'd also just love to hear what came up for you. I'm always so interested to hear what folks reveal for themselves. So until then, lead with intention, trust your pattern, and just remember that clarity is not something you find, it's something you create. Thanks again for being with me.